Thank you.
Okay, you are ready to begin. You can begin.
Wonderful. So, good evening to everybody. Welcome again to the lecture series. We've had lecture number 1, we've had lecture number 2, and this is the final lecture in this series, which is going to be more of an experiential aspect. So, if you would like, just have some paper and a pen close to you so that when we finish, you may want to jot down a couple of things if you have some experience, if you have some thoughts, if it triggers some emotion, and then we can discuss it when we're finished. So, what I'm going to begin again, like I did last week, was with the book by Blavatsky and Alexander Home on the alchemy and the secret doctrine. I opened it again randomly, and I like what came up. I think that it's always quite interesting to see when we do randomly pick up something, what emerges. So this is page 9, and it says the cosmogony alone of the secret doctrine is the most stupendous and elaborate of all systems, an uninterrupted record covering thousands of generations of seers, whose respective experiences were made to test and verify the traditions, passed on orally by one early race to another, of the teachings of higher and exalted beings who watched over the childhood of humanity. For long ages, the wise men of the fifth race, of the stock saved and rescued from the last cataclysm and shifting of continents, passed their lives in learning, not teaching. How did they do so? It is answered by checking, testing, and verifying in every department of nature the traditions of old by the independent visions of great adepts, that is to say, men who have developed and perfected their physical, mental, psychic, and spiritual organizations to the utmost possible degree. No vision of one adept was accepted till it was checked and confirmed by the visions, so obtained as to stand as independent evidence of other adepts and by centuries of experience. The flashing gaze of those seers penetrated into the very kernel of matter and recorded the soul of things there, where an ordinary profane observer, however learned, would have perceived but the external work of form. So this is something important because I think that when one does a PhD and when one goes into the depth of participants, one also emerges as a different changing self because the work itself, when we go into qualitative research, it begins to transform not only the people who take part, who can be considered as co-researchers, the researcher themselves, but also the reader, the person who reads and experiences together, and of course, experiences something of their own. So today we're going to go on a little journey with the hymn. I would suggest that during the time that you do this, you try to sit with your back straight, in a comfortable position with your legs flat on the floor or in whatever position you are, but try not to cross them. To have an open heart and to focus on your inner world whilst listening. There will be music, and I will read part of the hymn. I will not read all of the hymn, but I will see where the hymn itself wishes to stop, because this is how I have been working with it in any case. I did not use logic in terms of being very respectful of the history, as I said last week, of the Eleusinian mysteries. So do get in a comfortable position. Try to close your eyes. And if you can't close your eyes, then it's fine. You can just focus on the floor, on a spot, in a more or less mindful state, bringing yourself into connection with your being and soul. I begin to sing of rich-haired Demeter, or full goddess, of her and her trim-ankled daughter, whom Adonis rapt away, given to him by all-seeing Zeus, the loud thunderer. Apart from Demeter, lady of the golden sword and glorious fruits, she was playing with the deep-bosomed daughters of Oceanus, and gathering flowers over a soft meadow, roses and crocuses and beautiful violets, irises also, and hyacinths, and the narcissus, which earth made to grow at the will of Zeus, and to please the host of many, to be a snare for the bloom-like girl, a marvelous, radiant flower. It was a thing of awe, whether for deathless gods or mortal men to see. From its root grew 100 blooms, and it smelled most sweetly, so that all wide heaven above and the whole earth and the sea's salt swell laughed for joy. And the girl was amazed, and reached out with both hands to take the lovely toy. But the wide-pathed earth yawned there in the plain of Nyassa, and the Lord, host of many, with his immortal horses sprang out upon her, the son of Kronos, he who has many names. He caught her up, reluctant, on his golden car, and bare her away, lamenting. Then she cried out shrilly with her voice, calling upon her father, the son of Kronos, who is most high and excellent. But no one, either of the deathless gods or of mortal men, heard her voice, not yet the olive trees bearing rich fruit. Only tender-hearted Hecate, bright-coiffed, the daughter of Perseus, heard the girl from her cave, and the Lord Helios, Hyperion's bright son, as she cried to her father, the son of Kronos. But he was sitting aloof, apart from the gods, in his temple where many pray, and receiving sweet offerings from mortal men. So he, that son of Kronos of many names, who is ruler of many and host of many, was bearing her away by leave of Zeus on his immortal chariot, his own brother's child, and all unwilling. And so long as she, the goddess, yet beheld earth and starry heaven, and the strong flowing sea where fishes shoal, and the rays of the sun, and still hoped to see her dear mother and the tribes of the eternal gods. So long hope calmed her great heart for all her trouble. And the heights of the mountains and the depths of the sea rang with her immortal voice, and her queenly mother heard her. Just allow yourself to relax now and to imagine the beautiful flower that Persephone wishes to pluck, that is full of beauty. And just allow the music to take you. I will be silent for a while. Make sure that you breathe deeply and settle into your body. Receiving, if you may, a gift, an image, a stirring of the heart. slowly. Just allow yourself to become aware again of your body, of the sounds in the room, and perhaps you wish to take a few moments to write down or draw an image. And when you're ready, please do go ahead and open your cameras and we can share and discuss, ask questions. Is there someone that would like to begin? And of course, you can say whatever it is that you wish to say. And then I will explain certain things after. From Foray, when I closed my eyes, I saw a lotus-like colorless flower blooming and fading repeatedly. That is wonderful. And I heard the phrase flower with 1,000 names. Thank you, Foray. That is quite powerful in that one of the cards that has emerged is the card of a lotus flower, actually. The cards that I have developed around. Pamela.
Yeah, I was too taken with the idea of the flower, especially I was seeing very dark and purple and black on purple silk. And then I had the remembering of a short story by Hermann Hesse called Iris,
Oh,
all about
wonderful.
about him going into the throat of the flower as part of his own inner journey.
Oh, that is spectacular, Pamela. And how did that make you feel in general?
I actually felt much better once I had started to think, and kind of remembering the feeling of when I had read Hesse's short story rather than responding to some of the other abduction images
Absolutely.
earlier.
No, this is great because maybe you know, what is interesting is that you can revisit that book.
Yeah.
This is something that I would suggest that you do in terms of how the hymn works. It works in very many different individual ways. But something like that, it would, let's say, ring a bell for me to suggest that you go back and you read that book.
I would do it. It's 50 years ago, so it's been.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic, though. How wonderful. Excellent. That really is exciting. Marjorie, I see your hand up.
Hello, sorry about my cat.
Hello.
You'll have to bask in Lake Huron there.
That's fine. Don't worry at all.
I got activated, not around the flower. I was okay with the flower, but the mother and father complexes.
Aha.
The father who didn't come, who didn't hear, who was too busy basking in the narcissistic, attention of mortals.
Yes.
The absent father, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then and the rapacious uncle, a lot of sex abuse happens with uncles, unfortunately, at least in my practice. And then the mother awakens finally, and I thought to myself, would my mother have heard my cries? And I said to myself, no, probably not. She probably would have been taking care of one of my younger siblings, or otherwise occupied in her own anxious thoughts, and that I would have been carried off, and was carried off. Yeah, and I think of the men who carried me off, with no hope of rescue, and how long I spent in hell with them. And so and then I became grateful that I had been to hell, that I had learned so much. But the mother and father were, I don't know, would my mother have been like Demeter? I doubt it. So that was my thinking.
Thank you for that, Marjorie. Thank you very much, because I think that that is exactly what is the case. Very often we do not see many different things that occur, and we lack the awareness. And it is that journey down that teaches us a tremendous amount, but at the same time robs us. So it reminds me of a thought that I had today. I was watching a movie yesterday that was about child trafficking. And looking at the faces of these children, I was really moved, very moved, in terms of the fact that, do we really actually think that here are souls that are actually giving a message out to the planet to take note, to raise awareness levels? And all we can do is to just hope that some of us are doing something to raise awareness levels. And that is what I think is the most important takeaway, if I can say that. Because even the hymn can be brought into modern day understanding. So thank you for sharing that.
If I may, from my side, there was
Yes.
there was a sensation. It started completely unexpectedly as a weight being, as a pressure on my head, on the crown.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, there was this sensation of pulsating energy on my chest, and it felt like it was very, very, it came suddenly and it left suddenly. It felt like being in a dark place and just all of a sudden just breaking free and being able to breathe. It's just a sensation that came in from my side. I do not comprehend how or why, but this is something definitely that is food for thought for down the road.
Yes, I don't even know if we ever can understand the why or the how, but I think that when we have certain experiences, they need time to be integrated. And it can come even a kind of like flash that can come a week later, 2 weeks later, or we have a dream, or we understand something. There is definitely the sensation. I had the sensation that there is a higher energy, let me put it that way. I can't say it any other way. That just flowed, and it went straight into the computer as I was reading. So that's an interesting sharing. Thank you for that. Is it still pulsating or not?
It came and went suddenly, but when it did take place, it was completely out of the blue. It was different, completely different than all other sensations that I know of.
Okay.
Body and knowing how it feels and how it reacts. So that's why I paid so much attention to it, because it was like, wait, you're not supposed to be here. What are you doing here, kind of thing.
Yes, when the logic comes in, it does kind of like, so if I can just offer a bit of guidance here, is that allow when these little sensations come in, not to allow the logical mind to question it, so that you can experience it a bit more. I was very cautious. I may as well say now that I did not want to go on further, or there was this very clear aspect that I wouldn't go down into the further aspect. I didn't just want to stop with the flower, because I felt that it would be too little, but I didn't want to go into the further aspect of Demeter coming down to look for her daughter. It's a responsibility that I have. Joanna.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'd like to share, if that's fine.
Yes, of course.
At the beginning, I found it very difficult to concentrate and to gather all my thoughts in a very specific thing and follow your flow. I think I became more mindful when the flower came up. I started thinking about colors, and then I found myself trying to have a specific type of flower in mind. But then I found myself more comfortable when my flower became one that changed shapes and colors and energy throughout. I mean, I felt that there was not just a flower, it kept on changing and changing. So I didn't see it as one thing. It had that, it became as, I think that the basic of the flower had like an inner change and development, had many shapes and shades as well. But when I decided to draw it after we became more conscious to our present, it was all with straight lines and didn't feel right to me. So I blurred it and I put also some colors. So is it okay if I show it to the
Yes,
camera?
of course, of course.
Something like that.
Oh, wow. Thank
And
you.
although I wanted it to be one color and in one shape, I don't know, for some reason I felt that it shouldn't be one thing.
That is funny because it kind of like sounded like it wanted to be something else than what you wanted it to be, which is quite interesting in terms of our controlling ego, let's say, that kind of like wants to put things into a box that makes sense. That's wonderful. Well, maybe if I can suggest, Joanna, you can play around with this, maybe get some paints if you're into painting and just splosh around, meditate beforehand, let's say do a bit of meditation beforehand, just have some clarity and try to reconnect with that image and then play around with paint or colors, fabrics, all sorts. It sounds as if, you know, you might find something there. It also, I think, it can also bring us to write a poem in terms of trying to explain, because the poetry is what allows us to flow and to be able to explain things in a much easier way. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody have any question? How is everybody feeling in the now? Joan, were you going to say something? Yes, because I saw your hand up.
Yeah, yes. I was going back to the flower actually, because that's what you know, when we went into the silent period, what was so strong, and it was sort of like a flashing between a scarlet, almost a scarlet fiery, and then it would sort of merge into a gentle, sort of like a peony, like a soft pink, you know, peony. But
Yes,
what I was mostly feeling, I was still carried away with the quotation you read from, I think of it as being from The Secret Doctrine, the one
yes,
that you started off with. I can recognize, you know, about the adepts through the
yes,
ages that have checked.
yes,
And it was just an immense gratitude was kind of filling me, you know, that how fortunate, you know, how blessed we are, you know, that they did this for us, and that these great beings, you know, have looked into behind the scenes. And it's almost like it goes with the myth, almost, you know, of
ex
entering the underworld to bring back this wonderful, you know, this wonderful wisdom, you know, that's surrounding us now. So
yes.
I guess in a way, it was a feeling of gratitude that I'm where I am right now,
That's
and
beautiful.
able, you know, to be part of this. So,
Yes.
so thank you very much for taking us through that.
Of course, thank you, Joanne. It's really wonderful that you say that, because really it was just like 2 minutes before I started that I opened the book. And then
Oh,
when I was reading it, I was like, okay, this is just, you know, so powerful, like a message that comes through, because I do believe that the adepts and the higher masters and the ascended masters are still with us. I do believe that there is somewhere along the line, there is this guidance that we receive to pursue a path, to work with a path, and always to be very humble. I don't know, I'm sometimes a little bit cautious because I don't like to allow ego to take over. So I do try to surrender all the time, but I think it's magnificent because it brings this beauty and this grace and this feeling of gratitude. And there's a joy that emerges through that. So I think that's wonderful what you shared. Thank you very, very much.
oh, thank you.
Denya, I see that your hand is up.
Yeah. Sorry for taking the place a second time.
No. Everybody should. I mean, that is why it is given us more time, because it's only 25 to 7. So we still have time to discuss. And this is what I want, is for us to be able to talk so that it goes into a deeper layer as well.
I was first with Ioana's description of the flower, and then I overheard, I was like, hey, wait a minute, this is what I was seeing as well. But I would describe it in different words. And then I hear Joanne say the same thing, that was seeing something, a flower that was shape-shifting, let's say. In my case, what I was seeing, it was a flower just popping from the ground, changing, the seasons change, just the light changing, and it was also withering, and a new flower would pop in its place. So it's I found it just illuminating right now that three of us said something similar. We saw something similar, not the same, similar.
Similar, of course. And that is the whole idea of having group work. That is why it's so important that we do get together as a group in terms of things like this, because there is a shared collective. There is a shared collective unconscious where each person sees something that may have the form, but it is individual to each person. This is the charm of symbols, let's say. And now I think it's interesting to just show you that this is the card that I have of the flower, which is kind of like an interesting color, because it has mauve in it. It has this pinky rose aspect. This is on the card. And it's interesting because I did not choose to put it on the screen today, actually. I chose another card. So I think that that is kind of like quite interesting as well. I think there is a transformation as well in the sharing aspect of being able to draw it and of being able to stay with this imagery that has emerged for each person, and to work a little bit with it in terms of just being aware. Perhaps a dream will come in, or perhaps you will see something. You might take a walk in nature and see a flower or feel something. This is the importance, let's say, of something like this in terms of healing, because it is activating something within us. And it's important to be able to look for that connectedness, both within self and without. Marjorie.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm thinking
That's wonderful.
about the world of the gods and how easily I can slip into it. I just finished rereading the Odyssey.
Oh, right.
It was incredible. The fall of Troy, and of course, Scylla and Charybdis and the sirens and all of the deep mythology, and Telemachus' son, I guess, and Penelope is waiting. They're waiting there in Ithaca for Ulysses to come back. A beautiful poem. And then I wanted to mention, in case anyone's interested, there's a book that's a pretty well bestseller kind called Circe that's out right now. I can't think of the name of the author. And I read it and I was so absorbed in it. I don't think I've left that world. And now you come into my life and you open up another story of the Titans and Oceanus and and Helios, and who's the father of Circe. and then the Olympians and what they're doing around the town. And I don't know that I've ever left that since fifth year Latin. I think I'm still living in that world. I, I, I don't know how to describe it, but these are the archetypes that have been activated in me over the many years.
That's wonderful. It's very precious. And I do believe that we have it within us, because it reminds me, Marjorie, of something I was thinking about like maybe 3 days ago, where we keep on saying that we are, human beings. We plod along, we go to work, we do everything that is very earthly. But in actual fact, we do have the deity, I'm going to use the word deity, within us. And I think that we're being called upon now to return to the root and to return to our actual true nature, which, having gone along the path, seeing that you brought up Odysseus, which is very much a part of my work, because I used to teach in the past. I used to teach drama. I'm still a teacher, but I'm now at university. The point is that I used to teach students, young children, drama, theater, and we had put on the performance of Odysseus. And there is so much in that beautiful poem by Cavafy as well, that talks about these side roads that we go down, that basically we have to return from and carry on that path to come back to. I take Persephone as, I take Penelope as being an aspect of myself that is actually sitting there and making a tapestry, or we are putting together a puzzle. We are putting different pieces together that have to do with our own personal lives, our own personal experiences, and that continuously is being undone until there is union. So I think that that's wonderful that you're on that journey, and that I've heard of the Book of Circe, and I know that it is apparently excellent. So definitely this is part and parcel of your inner journey to find the deities within you, and then
Absolutely.
allow the deity to shine.
Yes, they're aspects of myself. I think of myself as whole. And I speak with my clients the same way, that you're whole, you're just getting larger. So I'm like a diamond, and different aspects of me are illuminated.
Beautiful.
Not that there are parts of me, I don't have to be fragmented necessarily by the world. I can
Absolutely.
remain whole throughout, and I can enlarge myself through the illumination, through the growing of the light within me that's spreading out and spreading out.
That is beautiful. Marjorie, I don't know if you know about soul cards in terms of getting magazines and tearing out randomly and then making this collage.
I do.
Okay, because that is what, your whole description makes me think that could be wonderful as an exercise. Because the diamond, I just see this diamond with all these different colors.
Mm. Yes. And the prism shone on my Buddha yesterday, and I looked at it and I said, where are all these colors coming from? There were like 20 colors on one of my Buddhas, and then I looked over and it was the prism.
Oh,
I was
how
very
wonderful.
happy to see that the prism had landed right on the Buddha. And so, yes, the different shades of light, the rainbow, so important.
That is
So,
beautiful.
yes, and thank you for being such a gentle and kind person. I'd like to do psychotherapy with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So is there anybody else that wishes to ask a question or share something? So what I'm going to do actually, which is totally unprecedented because I did not plan on this. However, I'm going to close this. Not that by closing it, you can't speak afterwards. Of course you can. But just to close this beautiful space that we've been in, I'm going to read one of the Orphic hymns to Eleusinian Demeter, because this all started with Demeter and the hymn to Demeter and the keys to self-actualization, which I sincerely hope each one of you has received one of those keys from Demeter. It's not me, but if this is something that each one of you will be left with a beautiful key. So I'm just going to read this. Deo, Divine Mother of all, Goddess of many names, revered Demeter, nurturer of youths, giver of prosperity and wealth, you nourish the ears of corn, O giver of all. You delight in peace and in toilsome labor, present at sowing, heaping, and threshing, O spirit of the unripe fruit. You dwell in the sacred valley of Eleusis. Charming and lovely, you give sustenance to all mortals. You were the first to yoke the ploughing ox, the first to send up from below a rich, a lovely harvest for mortals, and thrice blessed Irene, pure spirits of spring, of blossoming meadows, you are found in every color, in all scents wafted by the breezes, ever blooming, revolving, and sweet-faced. O seasons, you cloak yourselves with the dew of luxuriant flowers. At play you are companions of holy Persephone, when the fates and the graces in circling dances come forth to the light, pleasing Zeus and their mother, giver of fruits. Come to the new initiates and their holy and reverend rites. Bring perfect seasons for the growth of goodly fruit. The Orphic hymns have a very beautiful, different vibration to them. They are the joyous, they are the more, let's say, joyful song that comes in. So this is another aspect of Demeter. I think she has many aspects, and I think that Persephone has many aspects, and that we can, in general, discover a lot about the self through the archetypal forms, if I may say so. Please feel free to make a comment, say something.
It's beautiful that you read something about Orpheus, that based on mythology, he also traversed down to Hades to find his Eurydice. So it's interesting that it actually closed a circle. And he had a very tragic ending, but he did die for love, let's say.
Yes. Thank you for that. That's yeah, it was just a very spontaneous aspect that came through. I do like to follow these spontaneous aspects when I'm dealing with this work.
I'm just finishing a webinar, 5 minutes. Enjoy everything.
I wasn't sure who spoke there.
Sorry, I was not muted.
Ah, okay. Wonderful. So I don't know what happened to Ifeanyia, but I guess that Ifeanyia had a problem with her internet, because she had mentioned something like that before. So I think that if there is nothing else that anybody wants to say, then I want to thank you all very, very much for having set aside the 3 last Saturdays. I hope that the journey was a pleasant one, and I sincerely hope that our paths will connect again. And certainly I wish again to thank Erica Georgiadis, who is the president of the Greek Theosophical Association Society, for inviting me to do this. I really, really appreciate it, and I have enjoyed it tremendously.
Yes, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed this. And it's also helped me, I think I had said this at one of the previous meetings, but I've been going more and more into series in the astrological charts, especially with people, especially women who have had issues around abuse, either
Yes.
from the aspect of being a victim or being the mother.
Mhm.
And it's something I'd encourage anyone to look into too, if you're into astrological things.
Well, thank you for saying that, because I think that everything's coming together at the moment. It's all one. So we should really pay attention to the stars, because I'm beginning to think that we are all star beings in any case. So we ought to, I mean, we all came from stardust. So it's an interesting aspect. Thank you for saying that. Wonderful.
Thank you, Lindy.
Thank you very much.
On behalf of Erica also, because she's traveling and she was not able to.
I know, to host it, but thank you very much for hosting.
Thank you very much. We wish you all a great summer.
Thanks.
Yes.
To see you again soon.
A great summer to everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Stay well.